Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode. It is another Tuesday, so we'll just call it Tackle Tuesday. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some of the baits that we used this weekend that ended up being pretty beneficial and actually catching us some pretty decent fish. And so obviously here in North Texas this weekend, it was stormy, it was windy. I'll show you a little clip of what it was like on the water this weekend. Man, whew, I'm wet.
Yeah, me too.
Really nice here.
Yeah, it's real nice here.
Man. So as you can see, pretty rough, pretty tough, pretty chocolate milk water. And so we were throwing a bunch of dart baits and different things like that. We tried 2 different lakes, and then the one that actually ended up catching us some fish, the first one, we didn't catch anything that day. We were in the water for about 4 or 5 hours, caught nothing. Then we found out why we were the only boat on the lake. And then we to a different lake the next day and had some success. And so some of the things that we use, I'll go over right now and you kind of see if they work for you. Okay, so the first bait that actually ended up having some success this weekend is gonna be any of these red color lipless crankbaits. And so this is a 6 cents lipless. This is, I believe, a Spro. It's the Roland Martin. You can hear there's a little bit of rattle on both of these. You can hear the high pitch rattle on that, and kind of the lower thud of that one. So each of these red colors did really well. We ended up catching, I believe, my brother caught close to a 5-pound bass using one of these. His was a 6 cents and more. I think it was like a rainbow red color. But those worked really well this weekend. Also one of these shallow diving square bills in the same dark red color. Worked pretty well, got some bites off of that. Then of course, one thing that we threw a lot of were these big blade spinner baits. This was the Midnight Special. I believe this is a Strike King, has a little rattle inside of it. Since we're fishing such dirty water, we use the Colorado blade spinner baits most of the time, just to get that good thud motion going on in the water, get the bass to bite, so they can find it a little easier. This worked pretty good as well. And also, we did throw some willows with some chartreuse colors in there. They ended up catching some fish as well on these. Of course, these are a lot of times used this color in more clear waters, but we did find out that these did actually work in the dirty water. And of course, after that, went to the tried and true old trusty black and blues. And so here's just an old cheap jig that I've got with a black and blue saw craw on it. And so these are some really good, it has a lot of good action in it. It's very similar to the Googan Baits, but this for a trailer works really well. And so I really like using it. It's easier for me to handle when I'm on the boat because the Googan Baits are pretty greasy and juicy, which are really good. You get really good bites off of them. So they do have the black and blue colors right there in the Googan Baits. And also I was throwing this Strike King chatterbait, which is has some pretty good action to it. You can see how the blade's kind of free floating there, lets the hook kind of do its own thing. They said it's supposed to help keep the fish from getting a leverage and throwing it off. I don't know, I didn't get bit on this weekend, but I threw it a lot, and we'll try it again in the future and see what happens. Another thing that I really wanted to try that I didn't get a chance to was these new Trashmaster jigs that you can get right now from Mystery Tackle Box or Carl's. So these are pretty neat. There's no weed guard, but it has a screw lock right here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Then basically you'll just put your trailer directly on that, expose it, and you've got a weedless jig. So this is the 1/2 ounce jig. And so this is a really good bait, and I would have done with that, I would have done like a green or even the blue baby on this, because this has some blue with it as well, which would have been a really good color to throw with this, but I never got a chance to do it. It was cold and windy all day, and we kind of got fished out before we finally decided to call it quits. And a couple things I was really excited about picking up this weekend that have kind of been catching on are these Smash Tech convicts. And so obviously this is a really big swim bait. I did not throw this weekend. Looking forward to throwing it. But you get this, and you also put that on a 10-aught hook. So you can see how big that hook is. That's a big weighted hook to help it swim tried and true. The weedless poacher in this light hitch is impossible to find right now in stores, but you can get it from Smash Tech. And so they do a good job with those. They're really good swim baits. And also have some hollow body swim baits here. And that's gonna be a chartreuse shad. Just little 5-inch swim baits. And so there's something I'm gonna be throwing eventually in the future, once things get going a little bit better around here and the water start cleaning up. The baits that did the most work this weekend, obviously, were our red lipless cranks. And so These things did really good this weekend. Got a lot of bites off of them, and then spinnerbaits, so both tops, willow and Colorado blade. We did some flipping with the black and blues, but we didn't have a lot of good flipping area there. This is a lake we were at on Sunday. Typically is a full of lily pads. Well, there aren't any pads out right now, so that's going to be a frogging lake that we're going to go to at a later time. But I was throwing these mainly. I was using a heavy rod a lot of the time for throwing my spinnerbaits. And I've got favorite rods. I've got my favorite Lunker Special Edition and my favorite balance rod that I use. Both of those with 20-pound mono. I use mono just because it's easier for me to handle. Medium heavies for everything else. And so, but the two baits that I think as far as trailers that would work really good in the kind of the water we were in, with these Googan Baits, Kraken craws, and then the saw craws. You know, both from Carl's right now. And so check them all out. Give those things a try, especially for the dirty water. The red colors right now are blowing up. I see everybody from Lake Fork Guy, your Lake Fork Guide, and everybody else using these red Lipless cranks. Doing pretty good. So try them out, find some grass, rip them through there, and good luck. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.